Paragliding is an exciting sport, but like most exciting sports, there are elements of danger and risk involved. And it's important that we as pilots understand the elements of danger and know how to deal with them when they arise.
In order to overcome these dangers, today we're going to look at three methods. The first one is to counter the turn, the second one, pump out the deflation, and the third, damping out a dive.
Yeah, these three elements are common to just about every type of paraglider you fly, but it varies a little bit from type to type, and most manufacturers provide a manual that give you an indication as to how your particular glider will respond. As well as standard safety equipment, we also wear a life jacket, a backplate harness, and of course a reserve parachute. We also have radio communication between the pilot, the boat, and the ground crew. We generally winch up to about 1,800 feet to do the tests, and stop testing at about 300 feet above the sea. The most common form of deflation is almost certainly the asymmetric front deflation, where you get a part of the wing, maybe 20% of it, up to 80% of it will collapse.
The way to get out of an asymmetric front deflation is to counter first and then pump out the deflation afterwards. It's always better to counter first so that you can control your direction of flight and make sure you're staying away from the ridge or a cliff, whatever you're flying near.
The most likely time you're going to get asymmetric front deflations is probably when you're thermaling in turbulent conditions, but also if you're flying where there's any rotor, maybe if you're coming to land somewhere where there's trees or something like that, and also if another pilot flies across in front of you. Keeping in contact with the glider through the brakes really does help this, and also being aware of when it's going to happen. For instance, when you fly behind another pilot, be ready for it, expect it, and that way you'll be able to react that much more quickly when it does occur.
Front deflations are most likely to happen when you're flying fast in turbulent conditions. So if you keep your brakes on, that keeps the internal pressure up and makes deflations less likely to happen. Now we're going to do the same thing again, but I'm going to counter with the other hand to stop the spiral. So collapse the glider, then counter with the left, and that stops the spiral.
When you have countered the turn, you have to pump out the deflation. So let's have a closer look at that.
Okay, right, we're going to collapse the right-hand side. This is not normal flight. Take the brake and pump it out, like that. One long, hard pump when it came out. We'll show that again. Difficult. Right, same thing again. Collapse the right-hand side. One long pump. And out she comes. Very easy, it comes down very quickly as soon as you pump. I'll try and show the wrong type of thing to do now. You collapse it. It's not this. This does nothing. It's a long pump like that.
Let's look at an asymmetric front deflation in a little more detail in slow motion. Here we are flying along, normal level flight, and what I'm going to do is reach up with my right hand and pull down the front riser on the right hand side to simulate turbulence. It comes in now, 70% front deflation there, and the first thing I have to do is counter the turn. I do that by pulling on the left brake, and you can see the trailing edge on the left hand side of the wing curling down, and now we have level flight. We've stopped the spiral dive. The deflation is now down to about 50% because pulling on that left brake helps to pump out the deflation as well, but there's still a little bit more left in. So now we turn our attention to that. There it is. What we need is a good pull on the right brake now to pump out that remaining collapsed wing. There it goes, pumps out, and the collapse is pumped out straight away. And we're back to normal level flight.
A stall is when the wing stops flying because the airflow breaks away over the top surface. You can recognize when this is happening because the internal pressure is reduced in the canopy, the airspeed starts reducing, and if you're pulling hard on the brakes, the tips will start to peel back.
Stalls do happen accidentally, quite often, especially with novice pilots where you don't understand the stall point of the glider, where you're flying maybe with too much brake because you're trying too hard to stay in the lift band, or if you're flying in thermals perhaps where you're pushing it to the very limits.
Lack of airspeed now. Edge folding in. Brake now, it's close to my bum. Lots of creases on the canopy. The tips are just starting to go there, so we release just gently.
The full stall is an intentional manoeuvre and is caused by the pilot pulling both brakes down below the level of the seat and holding them there. And it's quite a violent manoeuvre. A deep stall can also be entered in the same way, or you can enter it in a turn or through turbulence. The canopy is not flying, but the difference is it looks like it's flying normally. It looks like it's normally inflated, but you're descending vertically. The canopy's acting like a parachute rather than a paraglider. Let's try another hip stall. Taking 2 reps again, putting in the stall. Canopy goes behind me, and now it's forward and top, surges forward, comes out on its own. Now we should try and stop that surge forward by braking. So I'll do another one, again 2 reps, pulling in the canopy, falling now, and then when we top, pull back the brakes and that stops the
A spin is where one wing is stalled and the other wing is flying at its normal speed, and it rotates. The canopy is rotating around an axis.
Spins happen accidentally when you try and turn too fast. You turn faster than the canopy wants to, and you stall the wing which you're trying to turn. Examples of this are, you're thermaling, you try and turn tighter, and instead of turning tighter, you stall that wing. Another example is you're flying along and you make a very sudden control movement to avoid another pilot and you stall the wing. All certified gliders will come out of a spin on their own, so you just need to release the brakes, the canopy will come out. You have to be ready to damp out the dive as it surges forward on the exit from the spin. After that, you may well also get an asymmetric front deflation during that recovery, and you have to treat that like an asymmetric. So you counter the turn, pump out the deflation.
It's possible for lines to get twisted in a spin. This can happen because sometimes a spin will be in a clockwise direction, and the exit from the spin causes an asymmetric front deflation in an anti-clockwise direction, for example. So the lines very, very quickly change direction, and the pilot can find himself facing the wrong way. The best way to get out of this is to reach above your head and pull the lines apart. That can help. If that doesn't work, then there's not much option but to throw your backup chute.
This is a spin manoeuvre. It's a complicated manoeuvre which takes place very quickly, but it's very important because it demonstrates all 3 techniques. That's countering the turn, pumping out a deflation, and damping out the dive. So just pretend here that I'm a pilot thermaling, and I take corrective action by applying the left-hand brake very hard. If we just freeze it there, you see that I'm releasing the right-hand brake and pulling the left-hand brake hard. So the left-hand wing is totally stalled, and the right-hand wing has got no brake on it and is flying at full speed. If we play it slow again, you can see the right-hand wing accelerates around very quickly, and I allow it to do 1 360 all the time, holding the left-hand brake down. If we hold there again, you can see I've now released the left-hand brake, which allows the canopy to recover. If at any time you release that brake, the canopy will recover on its own anyway. Now the next thing that's going to happen is, because the canopy was stalled and now it isn't, it's going to surge forward. So if we play it in slow motion, you can see the canopy swing behind and then get ready for a very sudden surge forward. And if we slow there again and stop, you can see my hands are pulled well down to damp out the surge. And play the tape again. The canopy has been damped out now, and there's a big asymmetric front deflation. I'm countering that with my left hand to maintain my flight path, and then the right hand side I do a big pump to try to get it out, but it's quite a tricky deflation, so it doesn't come out with one pump. I go for another pump, a very hard long pump, and out it comes again. So now the canopy is flying again at normal configuration.
The difference between a spin and spiral dive can be quite hard to tell at first, but basically what happens in a spin is that the canopy remains above the pilot and the pilot spins around the axis with the canopy. On a spiral dive, the whole thing is far more horizontal. The canopy is thrown out to one side, the pilot feels far greater G-force on him, and that's really the best way of knowing the difference. Let's have a closer look at the spiral dive, as it's an effective fast descent method and it's also fun to do. You take one brake and slowly pull down to give a constant rate of turn. The more you pull the brake, the faster you spiral, but be careful, it is possible to enter a spin if you pull the brake too far or apply it too quickly. As the spiral increases in speed, you can feel the higher G-forces acting on you. Spiral dives can occur accidentally with asymmetric front deflations if you are not ready to counter the turn and pump out the deflation. To exit a spiral dive, slowly release the brake. If you release too quickly, the wing may surge and dive on recovery, so always be ready to damp the dive with the brakes.
Going to show a big ears now. I'm flying along normally, full speed. I'm reaching up the A riser to the two outer A lines, and I'm pulling them out and down, being careful not to pull the A riser down itself. I pop in, my descent rate increases, weight shift. I'm not actually moving faster any forward, I'm just going down.
As you can see, big ears is a simple method of losing height safely by deflating the wingtips of the glider. But you need to do this correctly, so let's look at it again.
We'll just go up, pull in some big ears here. Try and keep hold of the A line, the brakes. Pull in the big ears on both sides. Always best to keep hold of the brakes on both sides if you can. So you can weight shift like this to steer whilst you're in big ears. And on this particular canopy, you have to hold the lines to keep the thing in big ears. When you let go, they pop out on their own. If you pull a bit hard and you pull the wrong lines, then you can get the whole leading edge to tuck, like that. It can be much more severe than that, depending on the type of canopy you've got. Just do it again. And out she comes.
B-line stall is another effective way of losing height for a rapid controlled descent. The pilot reaches up and pulls down on the B-risers until the canopy creases and begins to descend vertically.
Putting the brake handles onto my wrists and reaching up for the B-risers. Hard about 20 centimetres now, 30 centimetres. Back behind Barney, in quickly. Releasing the B-risers slowly. Back to normal flight.
what you do is you take the 2 V-risers in your hands, one each, hope you can see that, on there, and you pull. The canopy will start to crease on the V-lines, and it'll start to go down. There it is, that's a good view of it. Just straight down. I release gently, and the canopy surges forward again. I'll turn again, and we'll have another look at that. You should pull down firmly, but not force it in. And the release should be fairly firm and not too gentle. Let's have another look at that. Pull it in, pull it down. There it is, in it goes. And we're coming down quite fast, and release. Some canopies may have a tendency to go into a parachutal stall from this manoeuvre, especially if you release the risers too slowly. So make sure your release is smooth and fairly quick. And the first time you try this manoeuvre, make sure you have plenty of height.
Now, all the testing that we've been doing has been done under controlled conditions. We've been flying over the sea, and we've had a lot of safety equipment. If you ever do these type of tests, make sure that you are under instruction and that you also have the right safety equipment.
But of course, the best way to make sure you're safe is to fly safely generally. Don't fly in turbulence, don't fly in rotor, don't fly when it's too windy. Always stay within your limitations, and you'll enjoy the sport and have fun.